to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter, and this is the show where I sit... I think there's a hole in my pocket. Damn it, there's not a pocket there at all. Well, God, now my entire groove's just been thrown off. What was I saying? I don't know! The show where I sit here in front of a shelf full of Pathfinder stuff and one D&D book, telling you the many, many tales of me and my friends sitting around the tabletop playing the popular role-playing game, Dungeons & Dragons. Now, today's story is from the Spite system that we've been talking about for the past couple of videos. My friend Daniel created it, and we had been playing a few games using that, just rolling up different characters, testing stuff out, and he'd make little tweaks and quirks here and there, and just to see how it would play as a game using different people. So this time around it was me and 3 other people, rather than me and like 5 or 6 other people, so smaller group, more creative group, I guess. It was myself, the creator of the system, a girl we knew who's a relatively good writer, very creative on the flying by the seat of her pants style stuff. So Spite was a very good system for her to be playing with, and then like her boyfriend, who was strangely lacking. So he played Rusharam in the Mercy is for People with Heads. Yeah. So we begin our story in Absolam, the Pathfinder setting from the Inner Sea. So it's the city of 12 guilds, it's the city that's on an island, it's the city that's got, it's basically the biggest trading post in the world in the current Pathfinder setting. So we said, okay, what kind of stuff do we want to do this time? And so we assigned out that Kogre, the guy who was playing the kind of racist knight in that other game that we were talking about, has gotten really far into debt because of certain circumstances, and he has to pay back an extraordinary amount to the city of Absolam for damages, because apparently there was some, what did he say? There was some incident involving a pair of dragons and acid rain that blinded like 1/10 of the city, and he went down this long string of events probably from a game that I wasn't attending, but apparently it had to do with a pair of dragons and literal acid rain, so it did a ton of property damage. And we rolled like 6 dice to see how much it was going to be. It was like 280,000 gold worth of damages, and I was like, oh my god, because Absolam's market capacity is 170,000, so if you went and you bought everything in the market, just from the first smoke stick to the last apple to the most expensive magic sword, you bought everything, it would be about 170,000. He owed the city 280,000, so he was rich. I mean, his character was well off. He lived in a mansion, he had a butler, he had, he went to combat practice and fencing lessons and stuff like that instead of going to a day job like everybody else. So it was kind of infuriating, but at the same time kind of funny, because we see this high and mighty character that has at least the potential to be humbled. No. So we ended up with myself, Crypt Breaker James, in which I basically rolled a rogue whose specialty was dungeon crawling. We had Kogre, the knight, who was, again, the only thing I can remember about him was that he was so incredibly racist, but that's his roleplay, I guess. He's rich, he's high class, he looks down on others, he doesn't count them for anything at all. He keeps a pot of gold next to his front door for beggars just to make them go away, stuff like that. We also had a You remember the little pixie character that we were talking about the other day? We saw a new rendition of her show up as basically an accountant for the city, come to collect Kogre's debts. So she shows up at the front door, and then I don't remember what our fourth character was. To be honest, he's I don't know if he's shy or if he's actually bored and just at the game because his girlfriend is or what, but man, given that we were running with the spite system and, you're supposed to take turns being DM, he kept passing his turn and passing his turn. He didn't want to contribute, so I don't even remember what his character was. I think it was like an urban ranger or something like that, a bow and arrow kind of character that also, yeah, it was. It was a bow and arrow character that was used to being in the inner city, so an urban ranger. He was so forgettable because he didn't want to do anything. So the story starts out with Kogre alone in his mansion, except for his butler and his staff, and then a pixie from the city of Absolam shows up, announcing to him his debt of 280,000 gold because of the acid rain that he participated in the... God. It's so awkward to say because I wasn't at the game where this happened, in which he was part of the cause for this literal acid rain that hit like a tenth of the city and blinded countless people. And of course, Kogre doesn't give a damn. She shows up and says, "Oh, by the way, you have this humongous debt." And, he tries to worm his way out of it. He tries, I wasn't the only one there. Or, who said I was there? Or, what eyewitnesses are you talking about? Are you sure they're reliable? And, and this, it's hard to describe what kind of character this is because, like I said, spite can cover for anything. So it's this lady about this tall who's got little wings and giant horn-rimmed glasses on, who's come to collect on his debts. She's absolutely no threat, hardly at all. She knows a little bit of magic, but not enough to really do a ton of damage. So she's there pretty much until he pays his debts. He's gonna be room and board in her house, or in his house. So she is not allowed to leave his side until all of that 280,000 gold has been paid back. So meanwhile, I'm over off to the side on the table playing the butler, and it's like, they go to combat practice in the courtyard, and I'm pretending to serve her tea and biscuits and give her all the comforts of the household mansion, and basically ignore Kogre because he's being an asshole. Follow his orders to whatever minimum that there are, and then offer hospitality to this poor pixie woman because she has to stay there until his debt is repaid. So Kogre finally gets it into his head that she's not leaving until he pays off his debts, no matter what racist remarks he gives or how badly he tries to shake her or pay her off or anything like that. So he tries to use his filthy rich to pay her off, and it doesn't work. So he says, "Okay, I'm gonna have to go on a quest or something. Whatever it is that those commoner adventurers do to make their money, I'll have to come up with a large sum of money to get this pixie woman off my back." So he goes, "Okay, I'm going to have to go to a tavern because, as we all know, adventures start in taverns." So he goes off to the Tavern of Many Dark Corners, where heroes can lean into the corner and, put their candle out and watch each other, because, sitting in a corner and watching the room is cool and mysterious. So he goes to the Tavern of Many Dark Corners, and he goes, I want to go on an adventure to make a ton of money without leaving Absolam. Can anybody help me? He's trying to take the extraordinarily easy route to, I want to do just a little bit of work but make a whole lot of money. Who can help me? And then off to the side, Crypt Breaker James, that's me, goes, well, to do that you'd practically have to go grave robbing. Because all the best, relics and stuff that you might find in Absolam, if they're not on the market, they're buried with somebody. Which is kind of shoehorning my character in. And Kogre goes, really? Grave robbing, what do you know about that? And I said, well, there's this place called, pulling up my Absolam book, the Precipice Quarter, which used to be a canyon on the edge of the ocean, which is where Absolam sits, and then suddenly the canyon gave way and sank an entire part of town to where it's basically like a bog now, and nobody goes there, and there's random undead running around because of raw magics got loose and stuff like that. That's technically part of Absolam. If you want to go all the way down there, there might be a graveyard there or a tomb you could rob. If it's pretty much been ignored by the city watch because, it's down at the bottom of a cliff now. They shouldn't have to patrol it. Anything you find there is pretty much free game. And that includes grave robbing, apparently. Well, the dead are up and walking around, so I guess if they didn't take their stuff with them, they don't want it anymore. So Kogre goes, yes, you're right. That's within the city limits, and it doesn't sound like too much work. You're hired. What's your name? And I go, Crypt Breaker James, and I don't even get the name out. He goes, okay, fine. And, Crypt Breaker James goes, I want, 20% of whatever we find, because it's going to be a party of 4. So I'm like, okay, I want 20% of whatever we find. And Kogre's like, yeah, whatever. Again, this character is a complete asshole. I don't know how my friend came up with him, because he's like a really passive aggressive, goes to church on Sundays kind of guy, and he comes up with the worst asshole characters you've ever met. But we get Crypt Breaker James to join the party. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then we get our urban ranger, whose name I can't remember because he didn't hardly want to do anything, to join the party, who's also hanging out in the Tavern of Many Dark Corners. And so with the magic number of 4 in our party, we decided that was enough to set out. So we go from one end of Absolam to the other, in which Kogre is, a nobleman. He's got the nice armor, he's got the fat purse and the shiny sword and shield on his back. And so we decide that we're going to mess with him on the way to the Precipice Quarter. And so somebody chips in a spite token and says, okay, on the way to the Precipice Corner, you get mobbed by beggars. And Kogre goes, no, beggars, don't let them touch me. And he goes, they're pawing at your purse and trying to paw through all your stuff to, change. Spare some change, sir. And he goes, I throw a fistful of money in the street and I take off running. And of course the accountant Pixie is trying to keep up and Crypt Breaker James is trying to keep up. But it's really funny to see the beggars following him around like zombies because they know he's one of the rich people around the city. And we make it all the way to the Precipice Corner after messing with Kogre for a while. And it's just a sheer cliff. Like, you can't climb down it. You have to use a rope. So Crypt Breaker James, of course, has, enough tools and rope and junk for them to make it down. And the Pixie accountant goes, it's okay, I've got wings. Whee! And she kind of glides down. The fact that she had wings and she could fly kind of worked against her, because when you're a character that can fly, you don't have to dodge traps, you don't have to go through rough terrain, you don't have to do much of anything. But because Spite is a get experience through use kind of system, she wasn't in danger very much, but at the same time she didn't get hardly any experience points at all because she was just hovering everywhere. So keep that in mind if you ever make a flying character, is that, well, yeah, you can fly over stuff, but you're not going to actually experience what was supposed to be experienced. So, I have a thing against flying characters anyway. Anyway, we work our way down this sheer cliff wall using rope and attached in like harnesses to go down this cliff face. And when we land at the precipice corner, there's like 3 inches of water on the ground. It's all muddy and gross, and there's murk and fog, and it's basically like we just went to Silent Hill if Silent Hill suddenly flooded a little bit. And the whole place is oh wait, I've got the book in front of me. Let's see what it says about the precipice corner. In better days, the precipice corner was Beldron's Bluff, a carnival-like district of grand pavilions, museums, and stately manors situated around the 3-towered cliffside demesne of the long-dead archmage Beldron, a major figure in Absolam's early years. A terrible earthquake in 4968 collapsed many of the bluff's structures. Whole city blocks sheared off the cliff to topple into the harbor below, and thousands perished within the span of a few moments. The entire district was abandoned, its ruling council and city watch disbanded. Undead roam freely here, and no one is allowed into or out of the district between dusk and dawn. So yeah, it's basically this part of town fell into the ocean, kind of. So there's a little bit of water on the ground all the time, and it's all gross, and nobody lives there anymore. The city watch and nothing, nobody there. And they don't even let you in, between dusk and dawn. So we go down there on a rope, and it didn't really cross my mind at the time, but I was like, if we find a whole bunch of treasure, we're still going to have to climb the rope back up the cliff. So we roam around for a little while, and we decide that we're going to mess with Kogre again. So he's basically the spotlight star of this adventure, so we mess with him a lot. And as soon as we get there, we said, there's undead roaming freely around. We gotta have zombies. So we toss in a spite token and we go, suddenly zombies! Whoa! So we get attacked by a horde of zombies, and we have to do a bunch of rolls to get rid of them. And everybody makes it except for our pixie friend, who takes a bite in the shoulder. And she knows healing magic. She can heal herself, but still, she was the only one to not make her defensive roll. So she instead decides to ride on the shoulders of our urban ranger, because they're boyfriend and girlfriend, and they can do that. Whatever. I try not to bring that to the table, but it still happens. So after we get away from the zombie horde, we go around, and Crypt Breaker James, of course, has a map of the precipice corner, because that's a good place to go crypt breaking, since it's no man's land at this point. It's not against the law to go looting, because nobody lives there anymore. So he's got this old map of the precipice corner to figure out where the closest graveyard is, because they want to go tomb robbing. And we go, okay, let's see. And we start going down a street with Kogre leading out maybe 30 feet ahead of us. So we mess with Kogre some more. We throw in another spite token, and we go, and then suddenly the street gives away, and you fall down into the sewer. He goes, no! Splash! Fails all of his saves, just face plants into this murky, nasty poo water down under the city. We're like, nasty. And this, of course, attracts more zombies, and we have to fight them off, because it seems like anytime we make really a lot of loud noises, we attract undead that are roaming around. So we're trying to fight zombies, and at the same time, Kogre is trying to get up out of this nasty water, but it's a sheer, it's like the ceiling gave away and he fell through it, so there's nothing for him to, climb on. We try to throw him a rope after all the zombies are gone, but he's not like a gymnast kind of guy who can do hand over hand on a rope. So our pixie friend decides that she's going to help him out. And I look over and I go, how are you going to help him out? She goes, don't worry, I took I took like +2 magic. And I go, oh, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to levitate him out? She goes, nope, I'm going to use a geyser of the nasty poo water and, like, geyser him out. And I go, Cryptbreaker James retreats to the other side of the street. And she goes, and this giant geyser of nasty poo water launches Kogre the Knight up out of this sewer and then just kind of deposits him in the middle of the street. And the Urban Ranger and Cryptbreaker James are like, oh, God, you smell like poo gas. And he goes, shut up. I'm here to make another fortune, despite the fact that I already have one. Shut up. So finally, after more zombies, we make it all the way to the graveyard. Or what used to be a graveyard. Now it's kind of a murky, swampy mess, and most of the graves aren't occupied anymore because there's so many undead roaming around. So we avoid holes and stuff on our way over, and we finally get to the graveyard gate. And, Cryptbreaker James, of course, being the roguish character, goes, don't worry, I'll unlock it. And they go, why would you lock a graveyard gate? And he's already knelt down, like, working with it. He's like, why would you lock a graveyard gate? I said, well, why wouldn't you? It's a graveyard. You have to take good care of it. And I'm working the lock. And I push the gate open, Cryptbreaker James does, and then I throw in a new spite token, and I go, just like the worst, like, nail scratch on a chalkboard, rusty freaking gate sound you could possibly imagine. And while I was at the table, I held it for, like, as long as I could. This kind of sound, just to mess with them. And they go, oh, crap. And then, being my spite token, I throw down a bunch of dice, and I'm like, and then 30 zombies show up. And they go, oh, shit. And so another fight breaks out with all these zombies showing up. And our pixie friend takes another bite on the arm. She just doesn't have good luck. She's an accountant, She's not really an adventurer or wearing armor of any kind. And, she's still got the healing magic to help herself out. But, it takes us a while to get rid of all these zombies. And so we finally get rid of them all. We close the graveyard gate, and we're trying to, like, fight them off as best we can. And I think we relocked the gate or something, and to make sure that none of them would follow us. And we make it to is it a mausoleum? A building that's supposed to have a lot of bodies in it. I think it's a mausoleum or a crypt. It went underground, so it was a crypt with a building atop it. And I'm getting ready to undo the lock there, and Kogre goes, no, let's try my way this time. And he rushes forward, and he uses his shoulder to just knock the gate in to have, like, a really short, loud sound instead of a really long one. And so once we're inside, we just kind of prop the gate back up where it was, and no zombies follow us in because it looks like it's closed still. Of course, whatever logic that might be to a zombie, there's no telling, so. And we go in and we do, the don't step on this kind of tile, step on that tile instead puzzle. We do hallways, we do, that lock's not really a lock, it's a door, so you have to unlock it, and then it shows you the door, and you have to unlock the door again, and then the door opens, and it, like a sarcophagus comes out of the wall, and it's not really a sarcophagus, it's another door, so it turns sideways and upside down. Then you have to open the sarcophagus, and it's not really a sarcophagus, it's a doorway for you to open and walk through, because there's a hallway beyond it. Just junk like that, just these really bizarre random things, and just the fact that it's the spite system, the dungeon's not going to make any sense just because it's different DMs in every room. So, as we're passing the DM mantle around the table, it ends up being myself and the girl playing the pixie accountant because her boyfriend doesn't want to contribute anything to like DMing, and then the guy that made up the spite system doesn't want to because he'd rather be in character telling a story rather than guiding the story. So two of us were contributing while the other two were kind of coasting. So it got kind of frustrating, but weirder things have happened because we come across somebody who is living inside the crypt. At first we thought, we would find more undead, but it turns out everything had been cleared away, and like tables for alchemy sets had been set up. And we go, what is all this alchemy stuff? And we find in one of the side rooms, we find like a crazy old dwarf lying in a bed somewhere, just kind of sleeping. And we find like a big map on the wall of all the places where you're not supposed to go because you might fall into the sewer, poking fun at Kogre again. And we of course wake him up because who knows who he is. He could be a crazy old man. He could be a necromancer. If we brought in a necromancer, that'd be a nice bounty. So we decided to wake him up and say, what are you doing in my house? And he's got this really weird slur to him. And I was like, who are you? And he goes, who are you? What are you doing in my house? And I said, what's a house? And he goes, my house. It's like a sideways lip motion. House. And I was like, do you live here? And he goes, yeah, this is my house. What are you doing here? I said, you're not looking to steal anything out of my house, are you? And I said, no, of course not. And he's got these little vials on like a bandolier across his chest, and he picks up one of them and he throws one on Kogre, and it turns him into a halfling, which is hilarious because he's so racist against anything that's not human. He turns into a halfling, and then he has to be racist against himself. So he's like, God, I hate myself. I don't have the right to vote anymore. Damn. And it doesn't last for very long. It's a weak like transformation potion. And I asked him, is there anything valuable down here that we might procure? And he goes, there's nothing valuable in my house. Get out of here. And then he's like, don't make me summon all my pets on you. And I go, pets? What are you talking about? I'm still thinking that he's a necromancer. And I go, what kind of pets is it? And we turn and we look out into the hallway from whence we came, and we see all these things like climbing along the ceiling. And I try to take a closer look. Crypt Breaker James has kind of dark vision, so I kind of squint, and it's like zombie flying squirrels or something stupid like that. I was like, zombie flying squirrels, really? And the girl playing the accountant goes, yep, zombie flying squirrels. I was like, you're an idiot. Of course, this is the same girl that ran the campaign for Mercy is for People with Heads, so I guess it doesn't have to make sense if we're going around the spite system. But yes, hundreds and hundreds of zombie flying squirrels climbing along the ceiling, and I thought, oh god, alright, fine. This game's kind of going out the window as it is. It didn't go nearly as well as the Post Office of Doom, but fine, whatever. I can still try to roll with it. So we shut the door immediately, and we hear all the little claws like scratching on the door trying to get in. He's like, get out of my house, or I'm gonna, my pets are gonna make short work of you. And I turn and I look at Kogre and I say, Kogre, you're wearing those basic like iron gauntlets, aren't you? And he goes, yeah, of course. I suited up before I left the mansion. And I go, can I borrow one of your gauntlets? And he looks at me funny. He goes, yeah, sure. And so I take the gauntlet. And the dwarf is still freaking out because we're like up in his grill asking him for treasure and junk like that. And he's just this weird alchemist with zombie flying squirrels living down in a crypt on the precipice corner. None of this is making any sense, but sure, why not? So, since he likes to talk way too much, Crypt Breaker James wanders up to him with this gauntlet in his hand, and he goes, and he starts to talk. He's like, "You're not thinking about going through any of my stuff or my power kits, aren't you?" And then, poof, I knock him with the gauntlet, and he goes, "Oh, what did you, poof, stop that, what did you go, poof?" And I like pimp slap him with this gauntlet like 8 times. He keeps trying to talk, and he's not learning anything. And I was like, "I challenge you to a duel. You didn't hear me the first time. Why haven't you stopped talking yet? Man, you've got a good constitution score." I keep trying to hit him and knock him out, but it's not working. And we finally just attacked him and knocked him out, I think. Or maybe the pixie accountant used like sleep magic on him, but he goes down, and we kind of like lay him out on the bed while he's still alive, and we search the room hoping like maybe he found something somewhere in the crypt. And we roll, Kogre rolls, he doesn't find anything, and then, our urban ranger rolls, he doesn't find anything. The accountant refuses to search because she's still hovering in the air and it's not her dead anyway. And then Crypt Breaker James rolls, and being the roguish type for dungeons and stuff, he gets a couple of extra dice from the spite system, and he rolls like 3 6s, and he finds a jewelry box that we decide is worth like 4,000 gold after a random couple of dice throws, because actual money doesn't mean a lot in the spite system. So, 4,000 gold, there's only 276,000 left in Kogre's debt. So Kogre takes it from Crypt Breaker James. He's like, "Wow, yeah, I'll certainly take this," and he gets ready to put it in his bag, and the accountant pixie takes it from him. He goes, "Yeah, that's probably worth like 4,000 gold. Yoink! That'll put a good dent in your 280,000 gold debt." And so we decide, as soon as the dwarf is unconscious, all of the zombie flying squirrels decide to leave, I guess, for some reason. Maybe there was a direct psychic link or something. Maybe he was a necromancer and he was just too crazy for us to notice, but he had maybe like animal companion feats or something, because as soon as he went down, the flying squirrels were gone too. So we made our way out of the crypt and swore to never speak of it again, because that was the dumbest thing that any of us had ever heard of. And we go, "Well, we raided an entire crypt and we didn't really find anything, so that was kind of pointless, wasn't it?" And Kogre goes, "Yeah, no, we need to find something in the precipice corner that's worth a good chunk of change to take back and sell." And he goes, "Crypt Breaker James, what else is there in the precipice corner for us to go look at?" And I open up the Absolam book, and I go, "Well, let's see." And it's funny because we're not playing Pathfinder, but we are using a Pathfinder book to do our setting with. And I go, "Well, there's the Arboretum Arcanus." And they go, "What's that?" And I pretend to be holding up the big old map that Crypt Breaker James has. And I go, "Belgium himself erected this enormous crystal dome that once housed plants from all over Galorian, and is still celebrated in popular song throughout the inner sea. The recent earthquake befouled the magical clouds that regulated the structure's weather, mutating the flora into a twisted, hated mockery of its former self." And the table kind of goes silent, and I closed the book, and I was like, "That sounds really stupid." And they go, "It's a giant crystal greenhouse, really? That's the best you got?" And I said, "No, that's what's in the book." And they go, "Let's do it!" So we wander a few streets looking for the crystal, the Arboretum Arcanum, or whatever it's called. And we go, "Well, if it's actually made of crystal. Crystal is worth a lot. We could break it and take it to the market to sell. And I was like, that's a major Absolam landmark. We're just going to break it. And they go, yep. Because crystal's worth a lot. In fact, hey, Pixie accountant, do you think we could take the whole thing back with us and just land it somewhere and sell it? And she goes, I don't know. I don't know if my magic's actually strong enough to move something that big. And I go, well, we'll have to see when we get there. Spike token, more zombies show up. And not only are they zombies, and Kogre looks over at me and goes, don't you dare. And I go, they're zombie beggars! And so I'm sitting next to him. I go, change, change. And he goes, no! He doesn't even try to roll to escape. He gets covered in zombie beggars, and they're pawing all over him. He goes, no, I don't have any money. I don't have any spare change. And they steal his wallet, and as soon as his coin purse is gone, they leave. I was like, zombie beggars, oh no, they're gonna eat your money. And he looks at me like, you're a dick. I go, I know, but you built the spite system just so we could do shit like this. Change, change. You're a dick, T. I know. And so we get up to, after the zombie beggars rob Kogre blind, we get up to this crystal dome. And we go, wow, it's huge. It's basically a magical greenhouse made of crystal. I mean, it's big enough to have its own weather system. How are we ever going to move it? Or can we break it and take pieces back? Or, that's not going to be worth 280,000 gold. Even if we got the whole, as much value as we could, that's only 170,000 for a singular thing. And we go, okay, Pixie accountant, now is your time to shine. Pick up the entire Arboretum Arcanum. We're going to take it with us back to the coin district and try to sell it. And she goes, okay, here goes. Hoo! And she rolls her dice, and it's really low, and it's like it vibrates, but it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm like, okay, we'll have to smash it instead. And Kogre goes up with a club or something, and tries to break it. And we start breaking off big chunks, and we go, this really isn't working. It's probably because of all the plants and magic stuff that's inside. Pixie accountant, can you set fire to all the mutated plants and junk that are inside? And she goes, oh, I don't know. That could get out of control pretty fast. I said, don't worry. We'll block the exits. That way there's no oxygen getting in, so it'll just burn up and then put itself out. And she goes, oh, okay. And he said, plus the precipice quarter is flooded anyway, so it's not like the fire is going to spread anywhere. And she goes, oh, yeah, you're right. So she leans in one of the doorways, and she sets the nearest tree on fire, and we close the entrances, and we kind of have a picnic lunch there waiting for it all to burn. And it doesn't take long for it to burn because, it's crispy mutated plants and no fresh oxygen source. So the fire burns itself out pretty quickly, and then it's just all ash. And we go, okay, now try it, as though the ash doesn't weigh as much, So you go, okay, now try it. And she goes, whoo, and she rolls her dice and still doesn't do as much as it should. So she's like, okay, we're going to have to just bust off a few pieces and take them back and sell them as large pieces of crystal and make money that way. And Kogre goes, okay. So we broke off some pieces of the Arboretum Arcanum and, stuffed them full in our bags. And Kogre didn't want to carry any, so he gave them to the accountant. He's like, here, this will help pay off my debt. Take this giant chunk, and the Pixie is this tall, so she goes, splash, and she hits the water. So we gather up as much crystal as we possibly can. We're going to take it back to the nearest jeweler or something to sell just big raw pieces of crystal from this old historic landmark. and we get to the sheer cliff again, and we you know, tie our bags up, and we have the pixie, you know, pull the ropes back up and then throw it down to us so we can climb out. And we go to the market and we sell as much of the crystal as we can, and we go, you know, we made, you know, the maximum you can. We made 170,000 gold, and Kogre goes, yeah, that's how much did I owe again? And he's forgetting on purpose because his character's an asshole. And our pixie accountant goes, well, sir, you still owe, what was it, 106,000 gold pieces. So I'm going to have to be staying with you for the next couple of weeks until you come up with another 106,000 gold. And he goes, no. And they go, wait a second. Crypt Breaker James and, Crypt Breaker James is owed 20% of that 107,000 gold. So he goes and he takes like 21 grand out of that money. And Kogre goes, no, now I'm further in debt. And then the Urban Ranger comes and he says, well, I was owed 20% too. And Kogre goes, no, I'm even further in debt. What are you doing? And he goes, and our injuries and expenses. You know, we got some ruined equipment and stuff, so we take even more out of the stockpile. Kogre's like, stop it! Stop making it worse! So he goes home to his mansion having paid off maybe 65,000 of his debt after all that mess and fuss. Not to mention what he lost because of the beggar zombies and the normal beggars and the party members that took a big chunk of the treasure, plus this, plus that, and he only ended up with like 60 grand off of his, or 64 grand off of his 280,000 gold debt. So that's a good chunk. That's like, 30%, 35%, all in one go. That's not bad. Because, you know, raw crystal from a structure that size is worth quite a bit. But, man. Yeah. So he goes home to kind of cry because he was hoping to get rid of all that in one go, but it wasn't anywhere near that. So he'll live to fight another day, and that accountant is going to be taking up his guest room until he pays off all his debts. So Crypt Breaker James went back to the Tavern of Many Dark Corners, as did the Urban Ranger, and the accountant is staying there, being fussed over by the butler, and Kogre is still trying to come up with ways of getting rid of her. So that is kind of the end of that story. So he shaved off a good chunk of his debt, but man, he's got a long way to go. Whenever those games happen, or if that game continues, whatever it may happen, we broke the dome. So, what was it? We blew the dome, blow the dome. Yeah, piece of cake. So that is the end of that D&D story. So until next time, keep gaming.